Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. On Tuesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, I field questions about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, career transition, helping you with workplace issues. I'll just simply say, if you've got a question for me in one of those categories, put your question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer your question. You can also message me on LinkedIn. I'll have that link in chat in just a moment. But you can always message me in chat at linkedin.com/IN/ the big game hunter. You can do that before the show. This way I can include your questions in the show. And then you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on LinkedIn, and get your answer in that way. And let me just get that question into chat. Bear with me. That comment into chat. There we go. And again, you can connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/ the big game hunter. My website, which is thebiggamehunter.us, has a ton in the blog that'll help you. After all, people hire me for no BS career advice, which can relate to those categories: job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, dealing with different workplace issues. There's a lot of stuff that people will hire me for. And, my website has a lot of content that relates to that in the blog. Plus, you can schedule time for a coaching session, a discovery call where you have a chance to evaluate me to see if I can help. Find out about my courses, books, and guides. Again, there's just a lot there to help. My YouTube channel, JobSearchTV.com, has thousands of posts in it, like more than 7,000 on YouTube itself. You can find that at JobSearchTV.com, and you can watch that on YouTube. You can watch that on Amazon. Download the JobSearchTV.com app. On BingeNetworks.tv, you can watch my videos in there. And also subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio, which is the #1 podcast in Apple Podcasts for job search. Next month, we celebrate our 12th anniversary. 12 years of podcasting on this show. And you can watch me on Apple Podcasts. You can also watch me on Spotify as a video podcast. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, this show tends to be available. So again, I hope you subscribe, and hope you follow me in a lot of different places. So I've got a bunch of questions in advance. I'm just going to say to you again, if you've got a question, you can put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it before the end of the show, which goes for about 30 minutes. And I'll just simply say, if you've got something for me, if you've got a question or just want to say hi in the chat. This way I can reciprocate. Be very happy to reply to you, okay? Now, first question is, if recruiters are anonymizing my CV or resume, which contains a picture, and removing that, should I apply without them? No. No. Let me go an extra thing here and simply say, you learned about a job from them. You learned about a position vacancy from them. Why are you stealing their information and trying to cut them out of it? Don't you think they have bills to pay? Don't you think that they've got kids who need clothes, a rent or a mortgage, food that they've got to buy for their families or themselves, and you're going to try and cheat them out of this only because they took your picture off and removed it? Now, in the U.S., pictures are a turnoff. Maybe in your part of the world it isn't. No, you shouldn't apply without them. You're stealing. You're stealing their information and using it for your own benefit. And you may not agree with me. That's okay. But let me ask you this. If I took something from you without your permission and used it for my benefit, you wouldn't be happy about that, right? Like, You know, let me use the example of a car. I go to a car dealer. I want to think about it. They say, why don't you just fill out the form here and, maybe I can just put it in and get it pre-approved. And you say, nah, I don't think so. And what you wind up doing is taking the car that the next day and not paying them for it. Is that the right thing? No. And I'm stretching the point there. I'm just trying to give an example that you might relate to. But the fact of the matter is, they gave you information that that related to a position they had available for which they're paid if you go to work at a firm, at that firm that they represent. And the fact that they took off your picture is a justification in your mind for stealing that resume and applying? Don't do it. Really, don't do it. You're being a thief. Don't be a thief. It's bad news. Sumit, good to see you. And how do I leave dependency on coffee during work? I find it hard to work without coffee. Oh boy, I find it hard to work without coffee too. I would start by weaning myself off of it. I don't know how many cups you drink of coffee, but start with 1 cup less or start with a weaker coffee. I know there was a point where I had to wean myself off of coffee. I'm back on, but this was maybe 10, 12 years ago. There's a medical reason why I had to do it. And I weaned myself off of coffee by purchasing um, a coffee that was less strong. And I started to drink decaf, and that helped a little bit. But the idea was drinking less coffee, weaker coffee. And then what I did was I bought the most disgusting flavor of coffee imaginable, like a big can of coffee or a can of coffee. And once that was done, my commitment to myself was to stop drinking coffee. I gave myself weeks to do this because I wanted to wean myself off of the caffeine, and because you can have caffeine headaches. So drink less. Pick a time of day that you're not going to have coffee. For example, I gave myself permission to have coffee initially while I commuted. That was a 2-hour trip when I was doing commuting. And when I got to the office, I'd have to take 2 hours off. And that started to work for me to break some of my dependency on coffee during work. So I hope that's helpful to you. Uh, drink weaker coffee, drink less coffee, block out times of the day. Let me give you an analogy that I experienced. I stopped smoking. I haven't smoked in many, many, many years. And when I learned to stop smoking, the first thing they had me do was change brands. Change brands to anything you think you might like. Okay. And I changed to a different brand. That was for a week. Then the next week was changed to something I didn't like or I thought I wouldn't like. In my case, I started smoking menthol cigarettes. And frankly, by the end of the week, I kind of liked menthol. The next week, it was to a certain level of nicotine or less. I want to say 0.7 milligrams of nicotine. And then the final week, it was zero point 0.1 milligrams of nicotine. And there were 1 or 2 brands that had that setup. And the 5th week, I stopped smoking altogether. I also was told, smoke as much as you want. Enjoy yourself. However, I want you to record each time you take a cigarette, and I also want you to mark down whether you think any of them are particularly good. The final thing was I couldn't smoke for an hour after I had lunch, during which time I had to brush my teeth and gargle with Lavoris. That could work for you too. Drink as much as you like, Change to a different brand of coffee. If you used to go to Starbucks, go to a different chain or go to diner coffee, which will be weaker than what you're used to. And the goal becomes to change some of the habits and then follow the model I laid out earlier. It may be helpful to you as it was for me when I stopped drinking coffee. Here's a fun one. How can you motivate and engage your employees most effectively? Well, I'll just simply say there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation is lighting a fire underneath someone, inspiration is lighting a fire within someone. The fact that you have to do things to get people to do their work indicates one of two things or both. Number one is you don't really know how to interview and evaluate people. A lot of managers think they do, but they're getting results like you are. They have to kick people in the butt to do their job. You talk about needing to engage your employees more effectively. That suggests to me that they're disengaged. And that's a pretty common scenario, which to me comes out of one of two things. You hire the wrong person, or they didn't know about some of the friction that exists in the environment that keeps them from being able to do the job that they're being hired to do. It's a sad thing, but a lot of managers misrepresent opportunities to people. They become frustrated. They start developing a pity party at work. And then the long and the short of it winds up being, you know, they're disengaged. They're turned off. They're not motivated anymore. They're not inspired to do great work anymore because they're frustrated. When you interview people, you should talk about a couple things. One thing you ought to talk about is why people leave, because they do leave your organization, right? They do leave your team. Why do they leave? Well, what you're doing is warning people off who can't handle it, right? So I just simply say the problem isn't that you have to motivate. The problem is you're hiring the wrong people, misrepresenting positions to them, and not clearing away some of the institutional friction that exists that keeps people from being able to do a job well or some combination thereof. So I just simply say, clean this up. Really, clean this up because you're going to keep losing people and create, a revolving door in your group. Better to warn people in advance of some of the problems than just simply pretend they don't exist and then losing them in a short period of time. What if a company tells you after 3 rounds of interviews they're holding the hiring for the time being? The answer is you're not getting hired right now. There's a hold on. The follow up question should be, do you have a sense of how long this will last? Oh, I don't really know. In the past, how long has it lasted? A month or so. Great. So, like in 2 months, if I haven't heard anything from you, is it okay I follow up? Yeah, sure. Great. You have an idea of when to follow up. But the fact that 3 rounds have already occurred, irrelevant. Business could be sour right now, as it is with a lot of firms. They're trying to conserve capital. They're cutting back on projects as they sense a recession coming on. There's a lot of reasons they don't want to bring someone on board. So, what if a company tells you after 3 rounds that they are holding the hiring for the time being? Well, find out how long they expect this hiring freeze to last and then follow up with them at that time. I like this question. And I'll just simply say before I do that, if you've got a question for me about job search, hiring, management, leadership, career transition, or want advice about a workplace issue, put your question into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it. Also, connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the big game hunter. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us, to schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session. Find out about my courses, books, and guides. There's just a lot there that'll help you. Also, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube. Download the app of the same name on Amazon, or watch it on BingeNetworks.tv, which streams to more than 300 streaming services around the world. Also, subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch me there. Okay. So the next question reads, I'm being demoted in an organization because of internal restructuring. I have the same salary and terms, but at a lower tier with staff responsibilities removed. How should I respond? So what I'm hearing you say is you don't have to accept this. What's the consequence if you don't? Are you going to be fired? Then you have a choice to make. Is it that you're going to be at a lower level, making more money than other people at this level? It seems to read that way. Excuse me for 1 second. It seems to read this way. But the real question is, were you demoted because of performance? Was that the internal restructuring to get you out of this job because you're failing at it? If that's the case, talk to your boss, talk to your manager, and find out what you can do to improve and how you should improve. And what might happen if you did improve? Could you get your old job back? Could you get to manage people again? Whatever it is that's been taken away from you, could you have it reinstated so that in this way you have an opportunity to get back to the right level institutionally? If not, I'd get the heck out of there. I get the heck out of there. And when asked the question, why are you looking to leave? There are stories about internal restructuring, and I don't want to ride through them. That's what you tell employers, so that in this way, you're not saying I've been demoted and I'm leaving, but you can wind up being in a situation where you're explaining it about a restructuring and using that as the explanation for why you're looking to go. Why don't people dumb down their resume is the next question. Whoa. Let's see now. I got lots of candidates. Most of them are overqualified when I see their resumes. So I don't know if you're a corporate or a third-party recruiter, and what you have is the typical scenario of a manager applying for a staff position. So why don't they dumb down their resume? They're hoping that you're looking for someone with their background because they're seeing something similar. Or they're using technology, searching, finding up with search terms, but not really looking at what you're advertising for. So why don't they dumb down their resume? The answer is they don't want to do a lesser job. Seriously, they don't want to do a lesser job. Why would they? I'll just simply say, folks, don't spam your resume to people. And I understand you're sometimes being hopeful in doing so, but all you're doing is wasting someone's time that doesn't have a position available. Don't do it. What is the employer's motivation for asking job candidates if they have any questions? Thank you for an easy question. What they're trying to do is they're hoping to get to the point where they want to hire you. And everyone has questions about the role, responsibilities, what they're going to be expected to accomplish in what period of time, a lot of things related to the work. So what's their motivation in asking questions, right? Asking candidates if they have any questions? They want to resolve any doubts in their mind. Not everyone apparently is like you who doesn't think that way. You want to be in a situation where they want to hire people who want to work for them. And if you're not interested in their job, or you think the work will be boring, or the people there are uninteresting, you're not going to take the job, no matter what they offer you. Probably. So the long and the short of it is they're trying to resolve any sort of doubts or issues you might have when they're looking at your background. Should you use open to work on your LinkedIn profile to attract recruiters? Yes. Yes, by all means. Why not? Why would you not use that? Well, they might see that I'm looking. Now, I want you to message the help function on LinkedIn and ask them if I uh, implement open to work on my profile, will people at my current company see that I'm looking? They'll probably say no, because I think that is the default these days, that they're not going to see that you're looking if you work at the same organization. And that's designed to keep your confidentiality in place. So I'll just say, folks, if you have a concern about being found out, and I'd be very happy to help. Okay, let's just continue on. I'm going to do one more question today because I have a friend who's getting married, or his wife is get. Let me say that again. His daughter is getting married today, and I think he wants me to take a look at the father-daughter speech before the wedding. So, excuse me, I'm trying to be respectful to a good friend. Okay. Last question for today. Is it okay to search for a job when you're already in one? Of course. Of course it is. Don't think twice about it. Don't take off unnecessary amounts of time. Be respectful in that regard. Yes, you can do that. It's quite all right. Go ahead. So I hope you found this helpful. I'm Jeff Altman. My website is thebiggamehunter.us. Go to the site. There's a ton in the blog to help you. In addition, connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Again, there's a ton at the website that'll help you. And subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube. Download the app on Amazon. Watch it on BingeNetworks.tv. Subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find me. Have a terrific day and be great.